minorities, black people getting abused by these cops. Well, now people have to deal with it because of this video evidence. Well, that is significant because it's going to widen people's perceptions. I mean, this racism, again, I'm just used to it. Grew up with that stuff. Now, I'm going to recently be talking to a couple of white guys. One I would consider a good friend. Another one just an acquaintance, a guy I just don't even know that well. But I'm talking to these guys on different occasions recently. And both of these white guys let me know that racism now is the worst they've ever seen it in their entire life. And they're going to bring up Obama, thinking, I guess, maybe somehow this black president is the reason for racism in America, or from what they're seeing, these two white guys, the worst they've ever seen it in their lives. But I got to tell both these guys, I don't see it that way. I don't see it. I grew up with all this racism. It's not as bad to me, not as bad as it used to be when I was a kid. I see more black people on television, in some of this fiction. I mean, just these black anchors and reporters and whatnot. You didn't see that a lot when I was a kid. Just even these sitcoms. Well, they did have, like Good Times in the Jeffersons, but that stuff not as broad as it is now. Going to be a lot more open black representation out here in the entertainment, in the media, all of it. I mean, your politics going to see more black people represented. And so for me, well, that's a step in the right direction from where I was as a kid. And then, I got to tell these white guys, yeah, it used to be, when I was a kid, going to have white adults calling me nigger. It was no big deal. Now, these mugs don't do that as much. I'm not hearing this nigger thrown around that as much as it was when I was a kid. White people thrown around at black people. Not seeing that as much now. Not hearing that as much. I got to let these guys know. And so they're a little surprised. But I have to let them know, just as I've said here already, well, it's this digital video and this internet, these cell phones, the smartphones. That's why all this stuff is becoming more apparent to everyone rather than just a segment of the population enduring this junk and then passing it along among that community and then trying to reach out and expand beyond that community. But people aren't sympathetic to it. They can't quite feel it. They don't quite understand it. Well, until you get this digital video everywhere via the internet. And so when you have that and people videotaping these incidents, well, now you got a wider audience in America. Your population, 79.9% Caucasian white. According to CIA.gov, their U.S. Census figures, 79.9% of your U.S. populace is white. And so, well, now you got more of those people understanding, at least seeing this racism, this institutionalized stuff, and people talking about it more openly than before. Because of that, because of this expanded awareness, because more people know about it, more white people know they can witness this racism. Because of that, well, a lot of people are going to be inclined to believe that things are getting worse. Whereas I would say, well, you're just getting a better view of the full picture. You're getting a better view, the view that many of us out here had already been seeing, but now you can look at it on your cell phone. That's what makes it more relevant. That's why you think things are worse. And so when I'm telling that to these guys, these white guys, well, they get it. They understand. Now, I don't expect that just to wash away their perspective. The perspective of somebody who's white, non-colored, non-Negro, is going to be totally different. And so it's going to be all these different perspectives. I understand they're out here and they have to coexist. I'm fine with that. And so that's why I'm not going to go around saying I'm right and somebody else is wrong. If you see something a little bit differently, if a guy says, yes, racism is worse, and I say it's not worse, it's things are getting better. Not perfect, but getting better. Well, I'm not going to argue with that person. I'm going to listen to their perspective. I'm going to listen to it. Because when I talk about this notion of, well, I'm not hearing white guys call me nigger as much anymore. I'm not hearing that as much. Well, one of these guys, the closer friend, he tells me, well, that's because now people will really come down on you for that. And I'm like, well, exactly. And so is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? With this freedom of speech stuff, people are going to say, well, hey, a lot of freedom of speech is being suppressed. Well, This Constitution talks about your government, Congress shall make no law abridging your freedom of speech. But if somebody else, if a radio station just doesn't let you on to loudmouth about whatever you want to say, or a TV station says, we're not going to run your ad, that's not restricting your freedom of speech. Wayne TV and Whoa AM, they don't owe you freedom of speech. I mean, they're going to practice theirs. Other than that, this space is for rent.